The day they told me my son couldn't come back to school until I apologized, something inside me broke, not because I was scared, not because I thought I was wrong, but because I finally realized how far they were willing to go. I remember staring at the email on my phone while sitting in my car outside Lincoln Ridge Elementary in Seattle. My hands were shaking so badly I had to read it 3 times, until a formal apology is made to Principal Denise Walker and the school administration. Ethan Carter will remain suspended from all school activities. I looked at my 8-year-old son in the rearview mirror. He was coloring dinosaurs in a notebook, completely unaware that adults were destroying his childhood to protect their own lies. Mom? I looked up. Yeah, buddy? Why do you look sad? My throat tightened. Just tired. He smiled. You always say that when you're upset. Kids notice everything, especially when the world keeps disappointing them. What Ethan didn't know was that this nightmare had started 6 months earlier, and it all began because I asked one simple question, a question they desperately didn't want answered. My name is Olivia Carter. I'm 34 years old, a single mother, registered nurse, and until that year, I believed schools existed to protect children. I was wrong. It started when Ethan came home unusually quiet. Normally he talked nonstop, dinosaurs, space baseball, anything and everything. That afternoon he barely spoke. I found him sitting on his bed, staring at the floor. What's wrong? Nothing. Every parent knows that answer means everything. I sat beside him. Talk to me. His eyes filled with tears. Mrs. Henderson says I'm a problem. My stomach dropped. What? She says kids like me make everything harder. I felt my pulse rise. Kids like you? He nodded. She says I need special attention because my dad isn't around. The room suddenly felt smaller, colder. Ethan's father had abandoned us before Ethan was born. My son already carried enough pain from that reality. Now a teacher was using it against him. Did she really say that? He nodded again. Then came the sentence I'll never forget. Mom, am I broken because Dad left? I cried that night after he fell asleep. The next morning I scheduled a meeting. Civil, professional, respectful. Or at least I thought it would be. Mrs. Henderson denied everything. Every word. She smiled while doing it. I think Ethan may have misunderstood. He repeated the exact phrase. Well, children can be imaginative. I stared at her, then at Principal Walker sitting beside her. Walker immediately defended the teacher. Mrs. Henderson has been with us for 12 years. We've never had complaints. That wasn't true. I later discovered there had been several. They just disappeared. The meeting ended with me feeling like I was somehow the problem. Weeks passed. Then more parents started talking, quietly, privately. One mother told me her daughter had been mocked for needing speech therapy. Another said her son was repeatedly punished for behavior other students got away with. Porcelains emerged, ugly patterns, and every complaint seemed to vanish inside the administration. That's when I started digging. I filed requests, collected emails, documented conversations. I wasn't trying to start a war. I was trying to protect my child, but some people panic when truth gets too close. 3 months later, I received an anonymous message, no name, no number, just screenshots, dozens of them. Internal school communications. Mess between teachers and administrators. What I saw made my blood run cold. They weren't ignoring complaints, they were coordinating responses. Strategizing how to discredit parents, how to avoid investigations, how to protect certain staff members. One message from Principal Walker read, Olivia Carter is becoming a problem. Document everything. We may need grounds to restrict access. I stared at that screen for nearly 10 minutes. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't paranoid. They had actually targeted me. I contacted the district office. An investigation began. And that's when the retaliation started. Ethan suddenly received disciplinary reports. Minor incidents became official records. a forgotten homework assignment, a playground disagreement, things that had never been issues before. Every week brought something new. One afternoon, Ethan came home crying. They said, I can't go on the field trip. Why? They said I'm disruptive. My son had never been disruptive. Not once. The punishment made no sense, unless it wasn't about him. And it wasn't. It was about me. The investigation eventually concluded. Officially, publicly, according to the district, there was insufficient evidence. Case closed. Everyone protected. Everyone cleared. I was furious, but not surprised. Then something happened I never expected. The anonymous source contacted me again, this time with documents. Real documents, financial records, Tinnell reports, deleted emails. And hidden among them was a bombshell. Principal Walker's husband owned a consulting company. That company had received over $2 million in district contracts. Contracts approved by administrators connected to the investigation. Suddenly everything made sense. The cover-up, the protection, the fear. I took everything to a local journalist. 2 weeks later, an article was published. Then another. And another. The story exploded. Tenkrants demanded answers. School board meetings became chaotic. Reporters started calling. Walker stopped smiling. And that's when she decided to come after Ethan directly. One morning, I received a phone call. Your son has been suspended. I nearly dropped my coffee. For what? Threatening behavior. I laughed. Actually laughed. Because it was absurd. What threatening behavior? He told another student he was going to destroy their robot during a classroom game. A game. A pretend game. An 8-year-old pretending to be a dinosaur destroying robots. That was the threat. I challenged it immediately. The suspension remained. Then came the email demanding my apology, not for Ethan, for me. Apologize publicly, withdraw my complaints, stop speaking to reporters. And Ethan could return. It felt like blackmail, because it was. For the first time in months, I felt defeated. Completely defeated. Then I got a phone call that changed everything, a man I hadn't spoken to in years. Olivia? I froze. David? Hey, kiddo. Nobody called me kiddo anymore, nobody except him, David Reynolds. My stepfather, the man who entered my life when I was 13, the man who loved me when my biological father didn't, the man who never missed a birthday, never missed a graduation, never stopped showing up. After Mom died, we drifted apart. Not because we wanted to. Life just happened, but hearing his voice felt like finding solid ground during a storm. He listened quietly while I explained everything. Every detail, every humiliation, every attack against Ethan. Silence followed. Then he asked one question. Do they know who I am? I frowned. No. Good. I didn't understand what he meant. At least not yet, because while I had always known David was successful, I never knew how successful. Not really. A week later, he flew to Seattle. When I picked him up at the airport, I noticed something strange. 2 men in suits followed him, then a black SUV, then another. David, what's going on? He smiled. We'll talk. That night we sat at my kitchen table. After Ethan went to sleep, and David finally told me the truth. Over the past 20 years, he'd built one of the largest private investment firms on the West Coast. His company managed billions, actual billions. I nearly choked. You're kidding. No, why didn't you tell me? You never asked. I laughed despite everything, then cried, because for the first time in months someone powerful was standing beside me. Not above me, beside me. The next morning he reviewed every document I'd collected, every email, every report, every threat. When he finished reading, he looked furious. Olivia, this isn't incompetence. What is it? Organized retaliation. The words hit differently coming from him. Because he understood power, and he understood abuse of power. 3 days later, the school board scheduled a public meeting. Parents packed the room. Reporters lined the walls. Administrators looked nervous. I walked in holding Ethan's hand. David walked beside us. Nobody recognized him at first. Then whispers started. Faces changed. Phones appeared. People were Googling. Realizing exactly who had entered the building, the board president began speaking, trying to control the narrative. Then David stood. The room went silent. I'd like to address the board. The confidence in his voice made everyone listen. For 15 minutes, he dismantled them. Piece by piece, he cited documents, financial records, communication logs, legal statutes, things even reporters hadn't uncovered. Principal Walker looked physically ill. Then David delivered the sentence that changed everything. If this retaliation against a child continues, my legal team will file actions against every individual involved. Personally, the room exploded. Questions, shouting, reporters rushing forward, board members whispering frantically. And for the first time, I saw fear in their eyes, real fear. Not because of me, because they knew he had the resources to expose everything. Within 48 hours, the district reversed Ethan's suspension. Within 1 week, Principal Walker was placed on administrative leave. Within 3 weeks, multiple investigations reopened. But the biggest shock was still coming, because investigators uncovered something even darker than corruption. The anonymous source finally revealed herself. Mrs. Henderson, the teacher, the very teacher who started everything. When she contacted me, I almost hung up. You? Yes. Why? Her voice cracked. Because I was scared. Over several conversations, the truth emerged. Walker had been threatening staff for years. Teachers who spoke out were punished. Careers destroyed. Recommendations sabotaged. Mrs. Henderson wasn't innocent, far from it. But she wasn't the mastermind either. She had spent years operating under fear, and eventually became part of the machine. The guilt finally broke her. Her testimony became the key piece investigators needed. What followed was devastating: financial misconduct, contract fraud, retaliation, evidence suppression. The scandal spread across multiple districts. Several administrators resigned. Others were terminated. Some faced legal consequences. The local news covered the story for months. Yet, the moment I remember most wasn't any headline. It happened one evening at home. Ethan was doing homework at the kitchen table. He looked up. Mom? Yeah? Am I allowed back because you apologized? I felt tears immediately. No. Then why? I knelt beside him. Because the truth finally won. He thought about that, then smiled. A small smile, the kind children give when they decide the world might be okay after all. Months later, David and I sat on my porch, watching Ethan play baseball. Thank you, I told him. For what? For showing up. He laughed softly. Olivia, that's what family does. I looked at him, the man who chose me, who never had to love me, who never had to fight for me, yet always did. You know, he said, when they demanded an apology, they expected you to break. I almost did. But you didn't. I watched Ethan rounding third base, sussing free. No, I said quietly. I didn't. The people who tried to silence me thought power belonged to titles, to offices, to influence. But they were wrong. Real power isn't making people afraid. Real power is standing up when you're terrified. It's protecting someone who can't protect themselves. It's refusing to surrender the truth, even when surrender would be easier. They told me my child couldn't return until I apologized. Instead, I showed up with my billionaire stepdad. But looking back, that wasn't the moment we won. We won the day I refused to stay silent, because sometimes the most dangerous thing in the world isn't money, influence, or status. It's a parent who finally decides enough is enough.